Hello everyone, today I want to talk to you about Senate Bill 735 in the state of California and how it's going to have big impacts on Hollywood, anyone that lives in the LA area or anywhere that filming is done in the state of California. It's also going to have a huge impact on the security and law enforcement in the state of California, specifically when it comes to political elites. They're not going to be able to have their armed guards around them. And it's also going to affect filthy casual low-tier YouTubers like me. Senate Bill 735 is looking like it's going to pass. It has a lot of support. It's made it through a few readings and it's looking like it's moving forward. But if it moves forward with the current definitions, it's going to have a huge impact on the security and safety of people all over, including politicians, which for me, you know what, honestly, let it bite them in the ass. But it's the people that are just normal, hardworking people on film sets, people that live in the areas, and people that want to produce and film content for YouTube or other streaming services like me that are going to be impacted in negative ways if the bill goes through as written. Now, you might be wondering, what is this that I'm holding? It's not actually a White Claw, it's a candle. My wife makes candles out of a variety of things as well as just normal candle holders and whatnot, but I'll have a link to that in the description or something, so support her, that'd be cool. So, Senate Bill 735, this bill was initially brought up around the instance of Alec Baldwin definitely pulling the trigger, which is very sad, should never have happened. Honestly, it sucks that what happened even for him because he was being told that this gun is unloaded, but safety measures were not taken, were not followed, and someone died. So this bill is initially intended, it's well-intentioned, to create a safer environment when it comes to handling of ammunition and firearms on film sets, which is important because in movies, you have to point guns at people. Whether those guns should be real, up for discussion, depends on the scene. You know, things go on, and it's going to be filmed in certain ways to make it look real. They're not just going to be holding fake toy BB guns. I'm sure if you're a gun enthusiast like many of the people that are watching this, you hate it when an obvious airsoft or rubber dummy copy gun is used. You like seeing cool real guns being used when it's safe to do so. So this bill was initially set to create initially a pilot program and then just a blanket law around filming with firearms, and I'm going to put this in quotes, movie picture productions. So let's talk about what that is, and then we'll talk about how law enforcement and security would also be banned from possessing firearms in these areas. So the definition of a motion picture production means the development or creation of motion pictures, television programs, streaming productions, commercial advertisements, music videos, or any other moving images, including but not limited to productions made for entertainment, commercial, religious, or educational purposes. So basically, if you record a video, it could potentially fall into this category, especially if you're creating content on services like YouTube for a profit, which this channel does rake in some money after taxes. It's pretty much negligible. I don't really make that much money. I don't monetize this that hard, but this is a business. At the end of the day, this is a business, and I am producing moving images for entertainment and educational purposes. Now, this would go into effect as a pilot program commencing from July 1st, 2025 until June 30th of 2030. So a 5-year window. And then at that point, it would just be blanket across the board in the state of California. If you're making a motion picture production, which YouTubers like me potentially fall into, you would have a ban on firearms and ammunition. So let's talk about the firearms or blanks. A firearm or blank shall only be permitted on motion picture productions for the purposes of rehearsal, actor training, the filming of an on-camera sequence, or other development of content of the motion picture production with the individuals of the performers or crew under the following conditions. Now, the conditions that it goes on to list would be outside the realm of someone like me. I would simply not be able to comply with these kind of rules, but it talks about having certain safety personnel, having certain people who are certified and shown to be the person in charge of the firearm, where that's their only job that they're given, meaning that on a film set, there would be one person that has met the requirements and is their gun person, putting that in law. Now, if the people filming want to have stricter rules, they're allowed to, but it sets a list of requirements that are very deep and most likely not going to be attainable for most events. And now keep in mind, if it goes on TV, these rules are going to have to be followed. Now, I said that you could not have firearms or blanks on this motion picture production. Yes, in the entirety of the area of the motion picture production, you cannot have a firearm or blanks except for those specific listed scenarios. Keep in mind, law enforcement and security are not exempt from that. We'll talk about the carve-out that they have. It's not a big enough carve-out. Now, it also would prevent CCW holders from being in the area, and like the person that brought this to my attention brought up, sometimes in cities like LA where they're filming, they might have an entire block that's considered the filming area if they're filming around the entire city, and then people that are just wandering around can pass through in between takes and that kind of thing. I'm not from LA, I'm not really too experienced, but if you've ever been around a film set or where filming is going on, even if it's just for the local news, something to be aware of, because that would now be considered a motion picture production. So if you're carrying a gun as a CCW holder or a security guard or law enforcement, you wouldn't actually be able to be there because it would be a gun-free zone at that point. Now, the next part about ammunition. Ammunition shall not be permitted on a motion picture production except as follows. In the controlled and supervised environment of a shooting range or equivalent, and for the purpose of actor training or post-production gunfire sound recording, a documentary except reenactments, or firearms education. So generally, I would be able to fall into that. Where ammunition is essential to the subject matter of the work, such as a competitive reality show, a documentary, except for dramatic reenactments, or a firearms education and safety training production. Generally, my content would be able to fall into that because it's educational and for safety training. While filming footage of a trained military or police personnel firing weapons in a controlled military or police facility, obviously I don't fall into that. And then it goes on to say that basically all the laws and safety rules have to be followed, even if you're in one of those three areas. So if the range has certain rules, if there's more strict rules being set by the people that run the property and that kind of thing, you still got to follow the laws and rules. Where it gets juicy, this part does not apply to the following persons when they are on the perimeter of a set, which there is no definition of that, perimeter of a set where motion picture production is happening. A registered security guard carrying a firearm, and then there's a whole lot of other legal mumbo jumbo, but basically a licensed security guard to have that firearm, can be at the perimeter of the set, which might be an entire city block, and B, a sworn peace officer. So, cops and private security, which people in Hollywood often have, people in political roles often have, and people that are politicians are often on TV, which is a motion picture production, they would not be able to have their private security in the area where they are filming to be on TV. That's a huge issue. There's a lot of very expensive equipment that's valuable, and you wouldn't be able to have law enforcement or security in those areas. You couldn't be a CCW holder in those areas either, even if it isn't otherwise a gun-free zone, even if it isn't prohibited by your employer. That's a huge security problem that I think a lot of politicians aren't realizing that they're imposing on themselves. And it's a huge deal because for me, when this goes into effect in 2031, I think it is, these laws at this point are bills, dates change. So I don't want you to be too hard set on the date ranges. Got to be clear on that, or the specific legal definitions, because hopefully things change with this. Hopefully there are carve-outs. Hopefully this goes back to just affecting people that are on set doing the filming, because security and law enforcement not being exempt is kind of crazy and unheard of in this kind of thing. So not being able to have a firearm in the area of these motion picture productions limits what you can do for your own self, and it also puts restrictions on these high value people like politicians, people that want to have private security. They wouldn't be able to do so if they're in the area of a motion picture production, which that falls into. Hopefully this changes. If you know anyone that's in any sort of crew setting in Hollywood, send this video to them, send this bill to them, and let them know that security and law enforcement would not be able to enter the area, because that's a huge security risk for them. Let me know what you guys think down below. You guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace.